In the previous section, we marked out our positions of our chairs for the two-camera interview. But what you'll notice, I've actually moved things around already because the eye line between the two both presenter and subject matter when you've got two cameras is different from when you've just got a single camera and a single presenter. So I've moved this chair around, so Izzy's now looking, if you look at my hand, Izzy, it needs to be even a bit more further around. You know, you want that island to be tight into the lens. So if you're looking at my hand, you can see that that looks like, and just chat away from me and just, so you've got some nice movement. The movement of the head determines where you put the lights. So the first light, I'm using my 150 watt softbox here. Now, a word about iris and aperture. I'm using the MTF adapter. You know, this is a prototype. But what's really nice about this is I'm on a 35mm lens, and it's telling me on the dial that I'm on a 35mm lens. And rather than open up straight to f2.8, which doesn't give me much latitude in my focus for Izzy to move. If she moves forward slightly, she goes out of focus. So I want to close my iris down, which is why this is so useful, to about 5.2. The back is shot still out of focus, which is what I want, but I need to bring this lighting closer to illuminate Izzy correctly. Now, a word about using soft lighting. Using the egg crate, of course, if I take this off, that light just splays everywhere, and it's okay, but it's now putting a lot of light on the bed, which I don't want. So by using this, it's acting like a barn door, but it does reduce the intensity. But what I've got then is control. So if I pan that light around, you'll see on this camera, it's actually panning right onto the bed there. And as I pull it round, that light's Izzy, but there's still a bit of light there on the bed. If I bring the light around to here, I can actually keep the light off the bed, and it's giving me a really nice piece of modelling. I've got a nice nose shadow there, and it's just falling off on the side of Izzy's face. It looks quite dramatic, but that's the first light we've put up. So the other thing I like about this lamp at this wattage is it's on a dimmer. So I can dim that light right down and get the intensity just right for the shot, and that's f5.2, happy with that. She's looking a little bit shiny on her forehead, but that's something that we could get rid of in makeup. Remember, Izzy's just the stand-in. Our subject matter today is of mixed race, so she has a darker skin complexion. So what we'll probably find is those darker skin tones will absorb that light a little better. But the fact is, when our contributor comes in, I can simply dim the light up. So the next light I want to show you is the backlight. And I'm going to turn this on. I can leave this on just for a second so you can see me. And John, what I do is just come over here. I've put a 150 watt dado light here. And what I'm doing is I'm putting this at almost 180 degrees in a line across from the key light. And here's what I'm doing with this light. Now, if I open up the barn doors here, if I just show you in the bed there, John, I can control the width spread of this lamp source and make it very tight. And as I make it tighter, I can construct shape with that light. So what I can do here is just, again, I want to keep the light, well, I may keep the light on here. Let's have a quick look. Swing this monitor around. This is where using a monitor can be quite useful. Sometimes you can get a light to do two things. Just pick up a little highlight here. It's not really picking it up on that shot there. But I digress slightly. The lesson really is that you can have a light do several things for you by controlling the angle of the barn doors. But here I just want to isolate the side of Izzy's face. Now the other thing is our contributor has a big afro haircut, so the hair of our contributor is going to be much bigger. So I want to put this in a position where I know that if I have to make the light source bigger or smaller, I can. Now that's starting to look quite nice. The third light I want to put into this scenario is using something I haven't showed you yet. This is a projector lens and a zoom lens on a dado light. And what this does is using these gobos, I'll show you one of these. It's a metal frame that has a shape cut out of it, and this goes into this. So what happens is this is heat resistant, slips into the projector lens and allows you to create shape and texture with your light on backgrounds. And what I'm doing here is I'm just putting that light just on the back of shot there. You'll see I've got shape. Now, at the moment that looks a little bit contrived and a little bit like it looks like we put a light there, but what we can do is just soften it slightly by using the zoom lens to make it more out of focus. I mean, this really comes down to subjectivity. You know, I can't tell you what's right or wrong here. And I think what I'd probably do is add a little bit of color to that light. And I'm thinking, you know, this is a celebrity interview. We don't want to go too severe. This is a lovely color, actually. This is a real favorite of mine. It works really well. This is, well, the equivalent here is Lee Filters 170. And that just adds a little bit of a color to that light. It's very subtle. I'm not sure about that color, actually. Doesn't work too well. Because we've got a yellow headboard, the purple's not really working. So let's think maybe a green, actually. To go complementary to rather opposite. Yeah, that's okay. Now, the only thing I'd probably do here is add that, make that light a little bit higher and actually cool this light down using just, I think this is an 8th CTB now. This will just, what we've done is we've balanced the camera 3200, which means all the lighting in the room is tungsten. By putting a slight blue onto this lamp source, we're actually turning the color temperature of this light source here from tungsten to just a little bit blue, and it works really well. I'm not convinced that that green is the right color for the back of shot. And this is where you just got to experiment a bit to see if you get a color that you like the look of. Let's see what this one looks like. This is really the creative part of the process. Lee Filters 118. Lee Filters use a numbering system to color the colors of their gels. And I should really put this in a gel frame, but you know, most of the time in lighting, you just want to get a result. Yeah, that's a bit better. That is a bit better. So that's starting to look quite nice. And I think the only thing I'll do is just raise this backlight up so that it becomes a backlight come headlight. And just increase the intensity of that just a little bit. So let me just show you what each of these lights is doing individually so that I can highlight for you how each lamp is working. So if I turn off, we'll start with the background light. There's my background light, just lighting the background. If I turn that off, and then there's my backlight. And that's just bringing the light around Izzy's shoulder, up the side of her face, on the top of her head there. And from the front, you can see it's just bringing a line down the side of her face. I'm being very particular about lighting a certain part of her. If I turn that off and just go with this soft key, then we have just a simple light there. So I have a problem in that that window is causing me a few problems. It's just allowing too much daylight still into the scene to give me the control I want. So if I turn all my lights back on, and then, you know, when you turn lights off, you really get to see what each light is doing in turn. And so I think I'll just tilt this up a little bit. Let's have a look at these shots one by one. Again, you can light for one shot and it's got to look good in the close-up. That's the close-up there. Celebrity interviews, generally you don't go for big close-ups, and their publicists and their PR team will basically veto your shots. I mean, I've filmed countless sort of Hollywood A-listers, from Tom Cruise to, oh God, who else? Kylie Minogue, to all the kind of big celebrities. And I mean, there's so many of them, you just forget, because it just becomes one job after another. But you know, that's probably the tightest you'd be allowed to go on a celebrity interview. And if anything, they'd want you to go a little bit wider. Now, what you'll notice there is I'm getting a flare of that light as I go to that shot. And also, if that does become something in vision, I might consider putting this light on to see what kind of effect that has, if I can find the switch. And what I do is move all this tea and coffee making stuff onto the floor. Housekeeping never really like you filming interviews because you do tend to wreck their rooms. But you know, you're there to go do a job and get the shot. So yeah, see, that's starting to work a bit better. And actually, there's a large bunch of flowers here that we can put into vision. And so, rather than being distracted just by the light falling onto a tea making tray, it's not quite working because it's just on the edge of frame. You want to be careful not to distract the viewer. So we'll use these flowers later on when we do the two camera. You just have to try things. They don't always work. Yeah, so I'll put a matte box on this lens and that'll just stop that flare. But that's quite a nice mid-shot. In fact, what I could do is just before even doing that, let's just move this light. Yeah, that's it gone. So there's your, move that light a little bit. This is always, you always end up going back and forth, just fine tweaking the position of a light so that it balances the composition and doesn't adversely distract the viewer from looking at the subject matter. Perfect. I think I'm just going to do one more light, because on that wider shot, and this is why we do these tests looking at different shots, on the wider shot we're seeing the corner of this bed frame just here, and it's not lit very well, and I'm wondering if we can just add a little splash of light. Yeah, that's all it needs, literally. I'm just picking up a little splash of light. In fact, let me turn all these off to show you what that's doing. Because what I really want you to understand about lighting is it's about lighting different component parts of your frame and controlling as much where that light doesn't go as where it does. If you just watch yourself there, Jonks, you're just standing in that light there. You can see that it's just literally tiny, tiny amount. You might think it's not really worth doing, but what it's doing is balancing that daylight. What we've done is we've taken that daylight spilling into that corner of the room and used it to our advantage because we switched that practical light on. And this just somehow balances the frame up a bit more. Just turn all these lights back on. And that is pretty much ready to go. So I'm happy with the lighting now. All I need to do now is bring the microphone in. Again, that microphone can probably come in straight over here because I've got a line. If I bring the microphone in here, it'll cast a shadow on that drape. So the microphone can come in a stand just here, hang over here. It's not going to get in the way of this light. It's not going to get in the way of this light. Once we've got that in place, we'll bring a contributor in and we're ready to go.